Okay everybody, well here we go. We're going to start at Unit 1, Chapter 2. That seems to be as good a place as any to start. The title of this chapter is Let's Make Blueberry Muffins. And what we're going to be focusing on in this chapter is how to give instructions. You'll be able to use the skills that you learn in this chapter when you're explaining how to do something, such as start a new computer program, or, like we do today, how to cook something. Let's begin. Before we get into the text, I always like to share some interesting video that I've found on the internet. Of course, Halloween is coming up later this month. I guess some of you will have a Halloween party. So if you would like to see some recipes to make some cute cakes for Halloween, check out this video. First, go to YouTube and search All Recipes Halloween. You'll have a few choices, so look for the video that has the same thumbnail as the picture here. It has some pretty interesting ideas on how to make cakes for Halloween. You can watch the video now, or you can wait to the end of this video and watch it then. Now, when you are giving instructions, there are a few things that you want to make sure you do. The basic structure of writing a recipe goes something like this. First, you want to have some kind of brief introduction to the food. You can give some background about the food. For example, where is the food from? What kind of people eat it? When do you eat it? Answering questions like this in the introduction helps the reader understand a little more about the food. Next, explain the ingredients. After this, move on to the process of how to cook that food. As we'll see later, the way we use verbs in this section is very important. Finally, as always, we want to have a conclusion. This is where we can give the last piece of advice for the reader. Now let's see how these points are used in this week's text. So in the introduction, we want to give a little background to the topic by discussing what it is and why it is famous. In this introduction, we can see that the time and place where blueberry muffins were first made is very clear. We also see that most people eat them and add fruit and vegetables to add flavor. Finally, at the end of the introduction, we see that this is a food that is often eaten at breakfast. When you write an introduction for your recipe, you want to try to do the same thing. In the next part of the recipe, you want to talk about the ingredients. You need to tell the reader what you need and how much you need. What is important here is that unlike the Japanese order, the amount comes first and the product comes second. Now we move on to the process or the method. Notice that each step has its own subtitle. This makes it easier for the reader to know what that part is about. After the subtitle, you write in more detail about what to do. The most important thing to remember here is the form of the verb. You want to make the verb in what I like to call the dictionary form. You can notice again in step 3 and step 4 that the verbs are in the dictionary form. Where you're writing about the method, you want to be as detailed as possible. You can also add a few warnings, such as don't mix the batter too much, and be careful not to squish the blueberries. This just makes it easier for the reader to create an image of what they're going to make. So by now, I hope you can see this common pattern coming up, especially in the form of the verbs. Of course, there are a few exceptions, but the majority of the verbs are in the dictionary form. Again, when you do your writing exercise during class, I expect you too to follow this form of writing, thinking carefully about the kind of verb that you're going to use. Another suggestion I have for you is to do some reading practice. You can download speech recognition applications such as Dragon Dictation and practice reading some of the sentences using this application. This will check to see how clear and understandable your pronunciation is. At the beginning of this video, I talked about the importance of a conclusion. Unfortunately, this recipe does not have a conclusion. I think it's always nice to leave the reader with some kind of advice about what kind of occasion or event is best for eating the food that you're writing about. When you write your recipe during class, I expect you to add a conclusion at the end. Please remember that your homework is due the night before our class. Scan the QR codes I gave you in our first lesson and remember to submit your work that way. I will return your homework before class begins, and if there are any common mistakes, I'll discuss those during class. Finally, this is the writing topic I'm going to ask you to do during class. Don't start writing it yet, but you can think about what kind of food you want to write about and how you are going to write the recipe. That's the end of the flipped lesson for Unit 1, Chapter 2. I think it was pretty easy, but if there are any places that you're not sure of, or you'd just like to hear my voice a little more, feel free to go back to places you'd like to listen to again. See you in class.